Thank you, Mark. You know, in this typical brilliant strategic way, is able to introduce a subject that all of you, I'm sure, are interested in. I think we kind of reversed this. Actually, this probably should have been before how to get elected, because I agree with Mark. Those of you who are possibly looking to run for office need kind of a base or a track record of gaining name recognition, maybe gaining a track record of participating and contributing to the community in areas of interest to you. Let me tell you the importance of boards and commissions. One, how many of you have been frustrated about the university admissions issue that's biased against so many Asians? Raise your hand. How many of you were angry when you heard that 2 scientists were targeted because they were Asians as being spies? How many of you remember Vincent Chin's case and the legal system? And I hope Mark will talk about the judicial process, because all of these policy areas affect our lives. And the boards and commissions that are available to you is this layer of policy making that you can play a role in. But as Mark said, it's very strategic how to play a role and how to actually secure a lot of these appointments. Let me give you one example about myself, why I was appointed to the State Personnel Board, which oversees 250,000 state employees. Just a very simple case. An appeals case, we are a quasi-judicial board. So the appeal cases of all state employees who are going to be terminated or they face adverse action comes to us for final decision. There was one case of a Chinese chemist who was terminated because when she was accused of doing something, she did not speak up to defend herself. As a result, and the facts showed that there was a good possibility that she really wasn't guilty, but the very fact that this Chinese chemist did not want to speak up, they rendered her terminated because she was guilty. Until I went into the room with my 5 board members and explained to them about our culture, about challenging authority, about not wanting to create waves, I was able to get them to reinvestigate the case, and she has her job today. I'm Asian. I was on the board, the first one. So how many of you now currently serve on boards and commissions? Great. How many are from California? Okay, so I don't know how you got your appointment, so I'm going to go to generic strategy. I want to go very quick because I rather this be an interactive dialogue, so I'm going to go really quick, and I appreciate for those who are appointed in California to kind of chime in after I'm through and to give your, personal testimony how you were appointed. But first thing I say, we need to go through self-evaluation. Why do you want to get an appointment? What do you have to offer state government or a local appointment so that you bring value to the table? The worst thing, appointment secretary, who Mark knows is one of my treasured proteges, her name is Mona Pasquill. She's Governor Brown's appointment secretary. She said, the worst thing I hear is, hi Mona, can you find me an appointment? Worst thing to do, right? I'm going to submit my application and just find me any appointment I want to serve. Okay, so we don't do that. We want to evaluate ourselves first to see where we can bring value. And how you do that is, first of all, you research what appointments are available. And secondly, you think about your own qualifications. Do you want something in the health industry? Do you want something in education? Do you want something in the environment? And what is your background? How can you relate your background to the appointment you are seeking? So when they look at your application, they say, this person has the minimum qualifications of being qualified to serve in this position because that's their field, that's their background. And I have to tell you that there's not very many appointments in the state of California that has compensation. I'm lucky I have one, but it's not big compensation. But the higher I guess the most influential appointments are going to create the most competitive circles. So you need to be realistic. For example, if you are seeking your first appointment, you're not going to want to ask to be on the UC Board of Regents, right? If you're a dentist, though, and you've participated with your dentist association, then you may want to look at the dental board. So the most important thing when they evaluate your resume is how relevant is this person's experience for this position. So be very realistic when you do that.
Question.
Yes.
So how do you know when a vacancy or opening
There's
is
a list.
available? There's a list on the
It's all
web?
public.
There's a
Okay,
list,
thank you.
and it's under, I had it here, I think it's under Governor Brown, WW, and they have a list of vacant appointments, and it's by category.
Okay.
So, and most of them are not paid, so most of these are volunteer. What makes you competitive? You figure for a lot of these appointments, although some appointments aren't as competitive as others, but a lot of these appointments you're going to have to compete with candidates, right? So when you put in your application for the appointment, do you have a professional association that you belong to? Do you belong to a community group that represents an ethnic community? Do you belong to a group that is relevant to that subject area, whether it be women's issue, whether it be environment? What do you bring that's in addition to the fact that you're the most qualified? So first of all, you're going to look at your minimum qualifications. Secondly, what groups that are relevant to that appointment can you get to support you? What type of supporters who have possibly a name that you can get to serve as a reference for you? You have to do your homework. Do your homework for any appointment that you're seeking. What's the responsibilities? How do I fare in terms of responsibilities of these appointments? Too many of the candidates who apply for appointments do not do their homework. So there are some states, and I'm speaking about California, I'm trying to go real quick here. There are some states, however, where they're not quite as structured as California. And I'll be real honest, it's who do you know in government? Bottom line, even in California, it's who do you know? That's going to help you. For example, if there's a position you're seeking and you have a professional organization that you have to help you, you have important names of people in your profession who are going to help you in seeking this appointment, who do you know that has some relationship with the governor, with the governor's appointment department? All of this works. In some states, it's all you need. I'll be real honest. It's bottom line all you need. You want to meet the minimum qualifications, but in some states is who do you know who knows the governor who's going to make the decision? It's going to be up to you to do your homework, how influential those names will be in support of you. Once you decide, one, are you a qualified candidate to put in your resume for this position? Two, do you have a track record, and do you have enough support out there in the community to support your candidacy, and your resume is in? How do you actually get the appointment? I think that, first of all, I have some don'ts. You don't want to flood the governor's office with 100 letters of support. What you want to do is be very selective in what type of references and what type of community groups you get to support your candidacy. Number two, as I said, you want to see who in the governor's office that you possibly can get access to in the appointments department. Someone will know someone who knows someone. If you possibly can do that, or you can call the appointments office and just say, my resume is in, I need some information about what type of candidate you're looking for. I want to know the status of my appointment or my candidacy. They have to answer you. They have to answer you. And sometimes I encourage Asians to do that, because if you don't call and ask about your candidacy, no one else is. And in the meantime, the competition, whether it be the Latino community or the African American community or the women's community, they're going to start calling in for their candidates. So don't be shy in calling the governor's office to say, I've submitted my papers. I'd like to know exactly, what's the status. Because if you don't ask, no one's going to ask for you. Please, please don't use in California. It may work in other states, but in terms of California, do not use the ethnic parity argument. What they don't want to hear is, you don't have enough Asians here, and that's why I'm putting in my application. The worst thing to do. You're putting in your application, everybody, because you're the best. You're the best and brightest in that competitive field. And so when you field yourself and when you submit your resume, it's because I think I can contribute to the textbook curriculum board, because I'm a teacher. I understand what's needed in there's nothing that talks about Asian history, or don't even use that, but there's just nothing that talks about diverse history. I feel I can contribute. I work very hard with these parent-teacher groups. I have so-and-so who worked with the superintendent of instruction office, who has strongly encouraged me to submit my candidacy, and I think I can bring value to this appointment by my track record, by my qualifications, and I'd like to hear from you. And I think those are very critical points to make when you apply for your appointment. When you're called for an interview, which means you've made the cut for the paper, through the paper vetting, please call anybody you know who knows something about the appointment that you're seeking. Get their advice. What are they going to look for this appointment, for this board position? I was trying to coach a CSU candidate, and I said to that candidate, look in the newspaper. What are the issues that are facing the CSU system? Look at the governor's positions on issues. What are the most priority issues to the governor that deals with CSU right at this time? Look at the personalities on the CSU board. Try to call some of them. Ask them, what do you think the governor is seeking to serve on this board? Try to do all of that type of homework before you actually get your interview. And have some ideas as to what you think, what new ideas you think you can bring to the board or commission that you want to serve. Because it's nice to say, I want to be on this board commission, this is my track record, these are my community support references, but I also have some ideas that I think can improve the board. So if you go there, what you're trying to do is distinguish yourself from your competition. Most of the people who apply for boards and commissions will just say, I want to belong to this board because I believe in the policy area. I think I'm a good candidate. But if you leave them with a thought where, wow, this person said they have these ideas of how they can serve on this board and commission and make it even better, you leave them with a little plus and you distinguish yourself from that. I'm just going to give some generic hints, and then I'm going to open it up. And we're speaking here because Sandy said, Maeley, I want you to be as real because we want our candidates to be competitive. There's a certain posture a lot of Asian candidates sometimes bring into the room when they're being interviewed. One, they tend not to speak loud. They tend to speak in low voices. Two, they oftentimes, and I'm not trying to stereotype, but these are what I hear from the appointment staff, is they don't make the eye contact. And three, they tend to instead react to discussions versus being proactive in the discussions. Fourth, always ask questions. They're going to ask you questions. But if you want to assert yourself as a candidate, you ask them questions. You tell me what you're looking for. You tell me what skills you think I have that would contribute. That way you leave with that so-called leadership, that so-called bravado that they look for candidates. And I think with that, I'm going to stop because I'd rather have this interactive, but I just want to give some quick do's and don'ts and just ask for.
Yeah, sure. So can I,
Yeah.